My friends, have you ever seen what happens when ideology tries to bend mathematics? Well, the richest city in the world, the ultimate symbol of global capitalism and the economic engine of the Americas, has just declared moral and financial bankruptcy. The mayor of New York came out publicly to announce what many already feared: the money is gone.
The city is facing a crisis of historic magnitude. We have generated a deficit larger than any since the Great Recession.
But make no mistake, the blame does not lie with a lack of resources or an unpredictable external crisis, nor with the war. What we are seeing is the result of a declared war against those who generate wealth. Yes, my friends, the communist mayor of New York has just declared the most important city in the world bankrupt. A radical Shiite Islamist who promotes overt persecution of Jews is destroying a city that is an icon that has occupied our minds since our early childhood. And today I'm going to show you how the populist promise of taxing the rich to deliver a paradise of freebies turned the Big Apple into a rotten apple in less than 5 months of administration. The budget is broken, businesses are fleeing in disarray, and the bill, as always happens in this fragile scenario, will land on you, the ordinary citizen caught in the crossfire. Stay with me, because what's happening in Manhattan today is exactly what they've been trying to implement in Brazil for the past 4 years. Understand the mechanism of economic destruction before it knocks on your door with an unpayable bill. Now look, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like. It takes work to make this. And then you ask me, but Shimon Oliveira, isn't New York the financial center of the planet? How can a city that collects more than the GDP of many developed countries run out of cash so suddenly? The answer is short and painful: institutionalized envy. Why did the grand plan to create public supermarkets and free buses collapse even before the first opening? They didn't even start, and it was over. It didn't last 5 months. And why is the mayor, who was elected with one of the most blatantly statist speeches, now begging for help from a governor who also has empty coffers? What did they find out the hard way? It's that capital doesn't tolerate disrespect. The game changes when money isn't respected. And New York is losing all the pieces on the board that kept it a wealthy city. And look at what happened, my friends. The city government created a punitive tax for properties worth over $5 million that stayed vacant for part of the year. They believed in the illusion that the billionaire would simply swallow the bill, bow his head, and pay. He was relentless. The rich don't pay taxes. The rich avoid taxes. The moment the tax was announced, the luxury real estate market went into shock. Development projects totaling more than $6 billion were immediately halted. Do you know what that means in real life? 21,000 jobs in construction and the service sector were not created. The investors simply put their assets up for sale and headed to Florida or Texas, where success isn't treated as a crime. And by trying to bite the hand of those who invest, New York ended up with the worst of both worlds: empty buildings that generate no revenue and empty public coffers. You drove out the tax base and now you don't even have money to maintain the basics. It's the math of disaster, which also happens in Brazil. And if you think the problem only affects the billionaires on Wall Street, pay attention to the next level of this crisis. When the bad guy's money runs out, the state starts to cannibalize its own defenders. The mayor began systematically delaying contributions to city employees' pension funds. To cover the gap created by ideological incompetence, the government is burning through the retirement funds of the police officer who risks his life on the streets, the teacher in the classroom, and the sanitation worker who cleans the city. We are witnessing a grim remake of the 1970s, the period when New York was almost wiped off the map by neglect, gangs, and fiscal bankruptcy. When the government tampers with the pensions of those who work to sustain promises of everything for free, the social contract is officially torn apart. No one respects it anymore. No one takes it seriously anymore. Even the federal government of Brazil has proposed free public transportation on a national scale. Will this actually work? Consider the structural inefficiency in New York, where the government insisted on opening state-run supermarkets. The state-run supermarkets were created to combat the greedy profits of private chains. The result was already expected. They spent the entire budget planned for 5 stores on just one unit, set up under a viaduct in Harlem which hasn't even opened its doors yet. While the state plays at being an entrepreneur with your money, giant chains like Whole Foods and Target have already announced that they are reducing their presence in the city. Where the state steps in to help, efficiency goes out the window and shortages come in through the door. The New York middle class, which believed in the siren song of everything for free, is now facing a brutal increase in fees for all basic services in an attempt to cover the deficit. Collectivism is a seductive idea until other people's money runs out, and in New York, other people's money evaporated in record time. Governor Kate Ushul, who used to tell the dissatisfied to go to Florida, now gives pathetic speeches begging investors to come back. But trust once broken takes decades to rebuild. The verdict is relentless, my friends. New York is repeating the historic mistake of driving out those who produce. Treat those who create jobs badly and you will inherit misery. The crisis is systemic, and the fiscal collapse is just the tip of the iceberg of a structural incompetence that refuses to cut spending. What happened in the Big Apple is a global warning. It's an alert that resonates directly here in Brazil. When you hear speeches about taxing large fortunes or about free and limited public services, remember the empty shelves and the overdue pension payouts in Manhattan. Math has no political party, it just demands payment. The question that remains now is, how long until this same recipe for failure is applied with full force here in our country? Do you prefer a government that taxes your success or encourages your freedom? Leave your comment below. Now let's keep an eye on this board because capital is mobile and freedom requires constant vigilance. I created a censorship-free platform where we can mention names, data, and reports that we can't bring here. If you want to go even deeper and see everything that's going to happen before the crowd does, come to our censorship-free platform. You can find access through the link pinned in the comments, the QR code on the screen, and in the video description. I'll be waiting for you there. There are already more than 3,000 subscribers who help finance the truth, the analysis we bring you here. We also created a channel for series and movies with a curation that will save you from woke culture and all the whining that has been implanted in Hollywood movies and TV shows. But like me, good productions that will enrich your culture with this art that we Brazilians appreciate. The link is in the description and on the card for our series and movies channel. Shield your mind. I'm Shimon Oliveira. See you in the next video.